Open wide, come inside. Take a seat, rest your feet for the ride. There's no proof, there's no lie, just a sensual gleam in her eye. Let it blow, let it go. Watch it dance from the pole, see it grow. Does she sigh? Does she cry? Does she sing like a bee when she's high? Fly a little, fly a little. Love her like getting hot. Cry a little, die a little. Use your imagination. And she's smooth, see her glide. And she acts like she knows you're inside. Watch her move, ain't she fine? You're convinced that she's yours anytime. You're the one in the room, making a rap to the groove. She's all yours, screw the rest. That just finds her here in your chest. Fly a little, fly a little. Never like getting hot. Cry a little, die a little. Use your imagination. Open wide, come inside. Take a seat, rest your feet for the ride. There's no proof, there's no lie, just a sensual gleam in her eye. Let it blow, let it go. Watch it dance from the pole, see it grow. Does she sigh?
Is she shy?
Does she cry?
Do she cry? Does she sting like a bee when she's high?
Sounds like somebody we know.
We know her. We know. Sounds like a few people we know.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
look, kids, there's a new season, right? Jackie and Peter, man, come on, get on board.
They have their podcast.
Yeah, season 2. So check them out.
Yep.
Wherever you get yours.
That's right.
And I owe you guys like 4 seasons of my podcast. But I'm going to get there. I was editing today and having myself a good time and watched part of Jackie's show and just laughed my ass off. So, and this show runs about a little over an hour, which is about right for us. So I thought it'd be fun. I'll sit here and watch it with you. And like we did last week, if you need to know something, and I know what it is, I know the answer, you got it.
And I'll be here too.
And I'll be here too.
Because Jackie's freaking funny, and
Oh,
I
Jackie
didn't
is
listen to
funny.
it today, so I haven't heard him in over a year.
Yeah. yeah.
So I want to laugh.
Oh yeah, I hear you. I mean, he's funny. Well, this was a fun show, and this is, and it's interesting because he talked about some shows that we did together, and the last time I saw him before we did the shows together in the late 90s or 2000s was back in the 80s on the Howard Stern show when he was, the resident joke man. And it's just weird how it goes. You don't see people, then you see them, then you don't see them. And again, that's why I do the show, because I like to visit with my friends. And, when you're not out there doing it, and you're not out, you don't run into anybody at an airport or, hey, man, what are you doing on this flight? Oh, I'm going out to Nam. It's...
Right, remember you ran into Randy Jackson in the bathroom airport in New Orleans?
Yes, I do.
How
The
weird is
bathroom
that?
the
airport bathroom in New Orleans? That's just too weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
Weird.
That was weird. And I just talked to Randy the other day. And listen,
You didn't talk
boys
about
and
that,
girls.
though.
Huh?
Didn't
No, we didn't talk about
that.
Hey, you remember that time that we ran into each other at the New Orleans airport?
In the bathroom?
In the bathroom? Okay.
And they hadn't talked for years before.
Yeah, we hadn't
that.
talked for a very long time,
Yeah.
and it was just and then here we are again. And so, coming full circle, kids, Randy's son is actually going to stage manage for Vernon Kelton on the 6th.
Out in Riverhead.
Yeah, out in Riverhead.
At the Suffolk.
So that's pretty cool. That's James Jackson. We're happy to have him on board. And I understand the lad plays a little guitar, so you never know when you'll be asked to come out and jam. Anyway, chip off the old block, right?
That's right.
So let's see, what else
Without
is new?
further ado, we better get to Jackie's
Oh, you ready?
show.
Yeah, that's right. Or you guys are going to be falling asleep.
Yeah.
I doubt that, but there's no breaks in this one, kids, so
No,
get ready
this
to
is-
laugh.
Yep.
This is some funny stuff.
That's right. Get on those lawn chairs and
Yeah, and keep moving.
put your seatbelt on.
Here it comes. Okay, I'm gonna
That's
make sure
funny.
your level's right.
I'm laughing out loud, bro.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
I'm
There you
absolutely
go.
laughing out loud.
Wow, are you funny?
Oh, you are funny. Well, you've always been funny. Have you always been funny?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, it's a little embarrassing because I'm sitting here all alone in my garage, and I've been telling most of those jokes since 1958, and I'm sitting here pissing in my pants, laughing at this.
It's.
They are
I'll
funny.
tell you what. They were perfect because I'm just really funny, and it's interesting because when I decided to do this show, everybody's out there playing Margaritaville. Nobody wants to hear me do that or bang on drums or whatever. And I decided this would be a great way for me to catch up with old friends in the business that I might run into casually if we were both doing the same show somewhere here or there or whatever. And the fun part about the whole thing is that I really get to see my friends. I mean, when was the last time you and I were in the same room together? Do you?
I have no idea, except I do know if you're on the same show together, it's like, hey, how you doing? I hope everything's going great. Yeah, everything's been great. That's as deep as it ever gets if you happen to cross paths. I don't know. I wore this shirt. Were we
Oh,
Were we
yes.
on this together?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, at the Hilton in Atlantic City
Yeah.
when who was it? Jack Bruce wanted to get in a fight with what's his name? Mark Farner.
Oh.
I'm sure you remember every show. I didn't host all, but I hosted some of them. But every show, Mark Farner's rap about America and we love you, and it got a little bit longer until it finally got to where it was such a soliloquy. And I remember we're on stage at the Hilton in Atlantic City, and he was halfway through his soliloquy, and Jack Bruce just walked to him and said, "Shut up and sing your fucking song." And he almost got into it. And I'll never forget, because I tell people the next night, just like seventh graders on the bus, they had to stand in opposite wings before the show started. They had to be separated like children. That was so great.
Well, I'll tell you funny. I'll tell you
Hey, by
funny.
the way, the guy who books those tours, or used Toby Ludwig, I talk to him all the time. And he told me to tell you hello. I don't know if you remember Toby. He's a
Oh, I
great guy.
certainly do. I even remember his phone number, man, because it was like it's the only cell phone number quite cooler than mine. If you know his number, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I certainly remember Toby, and please give him my absolute best. I hope he's doing well.
He's killing. He's doing great.
Good. So, man, I I can't tell you how much respect I have for stand up, just in general, and I have some
timing is so
yeah,
good.
yeah. If you don't have
Man,
the timing,
your
it's if you don't
timing
have,
is like,
but
wow.
that goes without saying. But just the other stuff, like I don't know, being a musician, the way you work the mic when the guy screams, get out of the office, the way you know what I mean, so that you can do the full.
The dynamics of it, yeah.
Yeah, but it's brilliant, and it's stagecraft, and I admire it, and it's nice to see it. And I wonder how much.
It's always nice to hear that, but I'll tell you, so many people that have great respect for comics or some other field of the business that they don't directly do. A lot of times it comes from an incident. Do you know a guitar player named Arlen Roth?
Sure.
Well, Arlen told me I used to work at the Workshop Recording Studios. I was like the janitor, the studio manager in the 70s.
Hey, Bob.
And do you know the place? It was
Sure.
Great. Kevin Kelly and Jeff Cracky. And I was working there, and Arlen Roth came in because he used to come in and play guitar and stuff because he had been in a band with Kevin. And he said, Jackie, I got to tell you, I'm the biggest fan of stand-up comedy because my band was playing at the Bottom Line, and we had just started our set, and our bass player broke a string. And he had to go like halfway uptown to his apartment to get a string. He said, so I had to hold court for 20 minutes on my own. And he said, from that minute, I've had so much respect for you poor bastards that are up there alone because it can get very lonely very fast. And I always think that's very funny,
Well, I mean, let me tell you what. I was the guy in Rat Race Choir that did that. When Mark would blow up a stack and they'd have to put something else out there, I was the one telling the golf joke or whatever. And, so I know what it's like. But I'm also protected by it. I have this whole set of drums around me and a microphone. And if I bomb, it's not like I'm
Yeah.
And so I wondered, because I was thinking about this, and I was really looking forward to this, because as much as these conversations are informative for the audience, this one I have I have some solid questions. Now,
and I have some probably not true answers.
but I'm going to tell you a quick story about true answers.
Okay.
I'm working with John Entwistle, and I'm doing a record up in Woodstock, and the girl who owns the studio says to me, is it true that John Entwistle and Keith Moon experimented with livers to find out which alcohol they should drink? And I said, I haven't heard that one, but I'll go home tonight. I'll call and I'll ask. So I call him up, and he laughs. No. That was an article that we read in the doctor's office about experiments that they did on chicken livers, and that brandy was the best thing to drink for your liver. So I said, oh, okay, man. I said, I'll straighten her out tomorrow. He said, no. Her story's much better.
Listen, when I think in college, I don't even remember, it was so long ago, I read an interview with, I think it was Keith Richards. It might have been Mick Jagger, but more likely Keith Richards. And it was about him, and it said how when his addictions, him and Mick, their addictions got really bad, how they would go to Switzerland and swap out, they take out their blood and cleanse it and put it back in, they'd start over. And I was like, how fucking unfair is that to the rest of us, all of us drunks, and they get to start over? And then not long ago, like a year or 2 or 3 years ago, maybe it was even in Keith's book, he said, yeah, you get so sick of getting interviewed, and they ask the same goddamn questions. He said, some guy asked me about, did I worry about drinking? I said, no, mate. We just go to Switzerland and get our blood swapped out. He said, I totally fucking made it up. I just needed something to tell it. And here I've been telling everybody this story for decades,
Well, I heard that about Keith Richards and also Jimmy Page.
Yeah, and and I'll tell you what, I was doing, talk about those guys. I'm doing an interview on that same tour that you were on with Entwistle, and the guy says to him, John, do you have a drug problem? And he says, the only problem I have with drugs is finding them.
He's a character.
Oh man! And
Now listen, I got a question.
Sure.
When I played in the 70s, we had a 2-man band, 2 guitars, and then we eventually added a keyboard, and the guy played bass with his left hand. But the biggest we got was 3 pieces. So we were teeny. But we played at these places in Massapequa and East Meadow called Neptune Pub. And the guy and his son bought a club in the Hamptons in Quogue called Neptune's. And we went and played the afternoon, like from 4 to 6. Beers were like 18 for 14 cents, one of those deals.
Yeah.
And then the first band was Baby, a band named
Baby,
Baby.
yeah.
And the next band was the Rat Race Choir.
Oh.
And all of a sudden they got a call and they came up to me and my partner and said, listen, Baby's truck broke down on the Jersey Turnpike. They're not going to be here. You're going to have to fill in for them. Steve, I tell you, we didn't get through the first verse of the first song before that fucking club was empty, man. But we stayed around and watched you guys, and I'm pretty sure it was you guys. And it was, all I know is my ears were bleeding. It was so loud.
That would have been us.
Yeah.
That would have been us.
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, the thing that I wonder, because we went to the taping of a comedy show once.
Yeah.
We were with a friend of ours who had tickets, and I had the club upstate where we had Howie and a couple of comedians up there. But touring for me in a band, I'm on a bus. There's probably too many people, and there's crew because there's all kinds of stuff. What is the touring contingent for you? I mean, is it you're just going from place to place? Is somebody with you?
I have a very, very, among strange characters like us, I have an even stranger career because when I started in comedy, there was no such thing as comedy clubs on Long Island. And I started doing shows in bars with my guitar amp because I transitioned from musician to comedian. And I'm not even a comedian. I just tell dirty jokes. And then we started doing stuff and doing this stuff. And then I had a club, and I never really went on the road. I only did a little, like I did 6 weeks in the South with Rich Jenny. And that was at least 2 of us.
Yeah.
And 2 people is a lot more than one.
It's twice as many.
But in the very beginning, when we all worked together, like be 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in a car going to gigs, and it was just like you're talking about. It wasn't a bus. It was guys in a car, and the camaraderie was just incredible, and the stories are still flowing. But then I got to the Howard Stern show and got big, and I started headlining like at the Chicago Theater or at the State Theater in Denver, and these places. But it was just me. And maybe the MC would be the local DJ, or they'd get a local guy. So I was alone, and I'm telling you, it's very lonely. If there's just one other person to bitch at, you're all set. But when it's just you you can't make $12,000 and complain to the guy that just made $40 that this is a tough life. Because they really don't.
I hear you, but by the same token, I know about that loneliness, that road loneliness, and I thought to myself, wow, if you're out there for 6, 8 weeks at a time, especially, but I never thought that maybe a bill would travel together, like 2 guys, but still, it's got to be.
But I never did the tour. Like when I was on Stern, I'd fly to Vegas and back, or I'd fly to Chicago and back.
Well, you were,
Friday and Saturday, like not, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I did that for a couple of years, but it wasn't a tour. It was just like a club in Nashville, or a club in St. Louis, and a club in Missouri, or they were kind of strung together however you could, but it's the same hell.
You're on an airplane by yourself. You're waiting in an airport by yourself. You're in a limo by yourself. You're in I wrote a song.
That's not the worst of it. the limo, the plane, all that is at least distraction. Sitting in a goddamn hotel room all day to wait to go get drunk and do 45 minutes worth of jokes. You're ready to slash your wrists, you know. It's crazy.
Yeah, but the good news is that when you get to the club, you are so happy to see human beings. It doesn't matter what they are.
What a friendly guy, John. This guy Jackie is so friendly. Well, you're the first human being I've seen in 48 hours. Of course, you know. You're absolutely right. You know, I'm like, listen, what am I doing? I'm blowing the doorman. You know.
But I mean, so well, Stern happened. I mean, and well deserved. Boy, the chemistry, and I experienced it firsthand a couple of times. The chemistry in there was just undeniable. I mean, what a shot! How did that happen?
You know, it's really funny.
I hope
You
so.
know, you go up and you go down. You know, like right now I'm at the point. I always make the same quote that Jackie Mason says. He says, "I never have to work again unless I want to buy something." But here I was. If you take my life and connect the dots backwards, it looks like I knew exactly what I was doing and I knew where I was going. I had no idea. Like at some point, you know, you quit your last band and you say, if I drop out of this now, nobody will ever know. Nobody will ever care. All that work will mean nothing. But my band recorded a song in the 70s at the Workshop Recording Studios, and the guys like me asked me to work there. And I learned enough about recording to know how to make an album. And then we started doing comedy at a place in Huntington that was just a restaurant. And I had my guitar amp with a microphone input into it, and I hung microphones, and I recorded my vocal and the house laughs into a Nakamichi cassette player and chopped it up with a razor blade, and that was my first comedy album.
Wow.
And I did 3 comedy albums, you know, slicing them with a razor blade.
I know, yeah.
And then along the way, excuse me, when I put out my first album, I sent them or gave them away to everybody. And it's so funny because here it is, 1979, and I'm standing at the door and saying, you want to buy my album? And people buy my album for $5 and I'm autographing it, which is so exciting. I've been a comedian 6 months, but I got my own album because I knew how to do that. It's baking a cake. You buy flour, you got some water, you got an oven, you can have an album, right? So I'm selling these albums. And the guys are breaking my balls. The other comics are making fun of me. Look at this idiot with his albums. And then one day somebody goes, wait a minute. We each made $40. He's walking away with an extra $70 or $80. Maybe he's not such an idiot, you know.
Hello.
And that was decades before anybody's. Now you can't go to a show without somebody selling. But then I made a second album and gave them to everybody, and third album gave them to everybody. And then I was working in Washington, D.C., and the owner of the club said, hey, there's a guy that used to do broadcasts in his underwear on Friday mornings from the club. He's a great radio DJ. He just got fired. He's going to New York City. You should look him up. I never heard of the guy. I didn't know from radio. I'm a hippie. I listened to the Eagles in my cassette player.
Right.
So I sent my 3 albums, you know, Howard Stern, Carrie, WNBC AM, Rockefeller Center. And like a month later, you know, my girlfriend calls me up and says, hey, that guy Howard Stern just called. He wants you to call him. So I called and he got right on the air. He said, hey, man, we listened to your albums. You know every joke. You want to come hang out on the air? I said, sure. I went in and I sat down with Howard and Robin and Fred. And we laughed our asses off for 4 hours. And Howard said, you know what? You're a lot of fun. Why don't you come back next week? And I came back once a week for free for 3 years.
Wow.
So I paid my dues, and slowly but surely I was giving him ideas and notes and suggestions for lines. And then he went to mornings, and I was a full member of the cast, and we went to Pluto. Absolutely went to Pluto.
You sure did, bro. And well deserved. I mean, that's I'm glad to hear that he did the right thing after a while.
No, it was really good. It was really good. You know,
no, of course. I mean, you can't buy that. You can't buy that kind of experience. That's, and look, I mean, the proof of the pudding. Look backwards. You know what I mean? Like, It's like you said, the hookers the Jews guys like watching the hookers give the money back. But I got to tell you something, and this is a segue because I'm going to go back because I wanted to talk to you about comedy.
Am I talking to you in a time capsule or a space capsule? It looks like
Yes.
It looks like you're sitting on the moon in a space capsule.
No, I'm in the space station because COVID. I thought I'm safe out here for a while.
Okay, and I keep hearing this pretty girl. Is that your wife? Your
That is
girlfriend?
my producer of all things but children, Laurie Longo, my wife for how long? 37 years.
37.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a prison sentence.
For some
we're
people.
still best friends.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
It's
I meant
another
for her.
No, I still love him.
Yeah.
He's my best friend.
Yeah, no, we have a good time.
Yeah.
That's your problem.
It is.
Hey, my ex-wife lives 2 doors away, and we double date with her. Figure that one out.
Really?
You know what? I get that because the parts that used to work still work, and you just adjust. That doesn't sound all that strange, to
And
me.
the parts that used to work that don't work anymore is no longer an issue.
Exactly. For anyone. So there you go.
Online, I could still do it twice.
Yeah?
Yeah, my favorite is the one in the fall.
Man, you're just naturally
Now-
funny, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
no,
yeah.
it's just old crap I've been telling since I was in 2nd grade. Go ahead. I didn't
Yeah,
mean to interrupt
but
you.
it's not even that. It's a delivery. I mean, I could tell you. I tell
Like
you.
Rodney Dangerfield behind him there.
Hey.
That's my guy. Hey, you want
What
to
time you do back at Boys Town?
This is my COVID joke. So a guy knocks on the neighbor's door, and the neighbor answers. And he says, "Hey, man, since the COVID hit, I haven't seen your wife." And his neighbor says, "Oh, she's out back in the garden." He says, "Well, I was just out there. I didn't see her." And his neighbor says, "Well, you got to dig down a little bit."
That's funny.
And that gets funnier and funnier with every other month of lockdown.
Yes,
it
it
gets
does.
funnier and funnier. So
So now, I mean, and this is.
Man, I bet everybody wants
I'm
that at
actually
their party.
I'm actually going to give you a fix for this next problem because I've been thinking about this shit all day, man. I mean, and I wonder how and I don't want to go to politics,
No,
but
no.
But
the answer to your question is not at all.
Really, is that right? It hasn't affected the medium at all.
No, I'm talking about me. Over the course of time, things round itself off. Like on my first album in 1979, there were a lot of Polak jokes. Polak. Pretty quickly, within a year, I stopped saying Polak because that's insulting. And I say Polish, which is still basically as insulting. I say the Jewish guy, the black guy, but I never use the really disparaging words. I've finally learned that I can't say midget anymore, although very often I do. I guess that's just as heinous. But I've always been the same guy telling the jokes. And anybody that sees me on stage, if they can't tell that the only thing on my mind is making them laugh, then they're a moron. I got no agenda.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to turn anybody into this, onto that. There's no politics. There's no nothing. I'm just trying to make you laugh.
Right.
And I've had, I had a Polish group of people complain about me. And I said, come to my show. And they came to my show and they came up and said, yeah, you did Polish jokes, but you did black jokes and fat jokes, and you made fun of yourself and made fun of your own mother. You're right across the board. There's no harm, no foul,
Yeah.
I tell you, as far as what's going on, though, I don't even know if it's the goddamn political correctness as much as it is nobody's funny. Everybody gets up there and they're so cool and they're so smart and they're so hip.
But
And I say to myself, you left out the part about making people laugh. Make them laugh out loud. People say, oh, Jackie, your show's just a bunch of stupid jokes. All we did was laugh. Well, what the fuck do you think I'm doing?
hello, what do you think?
Everybody, if I had a nickel for every guy or girl that came up to me and said, that is the hardest I've ever laughed for an hour, That's great. If somebody comes up and says, I didn't really learn anything, or what are your politics? That's not my job.
No.
It's not my job. It's not my job to sing opera. It's not my job to teach you how to make cookies. It's my job to make you laugh your balls off. So that's my job.
I'll tell you what I discovered, because I'm a musician. I play on stage, and I'm a live musician. So doing this format is interesting and new and different, and I don't want to offend, but I like telling jokes too. And I've got some killer jokes, some funny stuff. I'm sure you've heard most of it, but you pull it out here and there. And what I discovered is that if you turn the what shall we call them? What do we?
Pollock jokes.
If you turn the Pollock jokes into drummer jokes,
Yeah.
everybody thinks it's funny.
Right.
So many, blonde jokes,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I use, I use, instead of Italian, I say Ravelli, and instead of Polish, I say Stokowski, and instead of black, I say Washington. Sometimes I do that, and sometimes I don't bother, but it's so easy to make it gentle. And it turns out that Polish jokes, we're at the age where we've seen enough stupid people and done enough stupid things ourselves. You don't even have to make it a nationality.
No, you
can
don't.
just tell it as a guy. A guy jumps out of a plane with a parachute, and he completely forgets what to do. He took the training, but he completely spaced it out, and he's zooming down like 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's freaking out, and all of a sudden he passes another guy who's on his way up. He say, "Hey man, you know anything about parachutes?" And the other guy says, "No." "You know anything about lighting gas stoves?" They not a Polish joke. That was a Polish guy and a black guy. You know how to light a gas stove, but it doesn't need it because we're older now, and we're all stupid, and we're all forgetful. We're all idiots except for me.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny, and I agree. And so,
and you know what? Also, is the older we get, I don't know about you, but when you're a kid, Henny Youngman's a little bit funny. But Henny Youngman gets funnier every 5 minutes, every year, because all that marriage stuff, when you start living with a woman or a woman starts living with you and trying to go through it, he just gets funnier and funnier and funnier because marriage it's an impossible situation. It's great.
I liked your fire extinguisher.
Oh
joke.
God, the old lady in the store with the dildos, that was priceless.
I had a girlfriend that just every once in a while she'd turn to me and go, "Give me a red one."
That's funny. Well, I got to ask you a question. Do you know the one about the plastic surgeon with the dial in the back of the lady's head?
There's just the one where your vagina's on your chin. I mean,
that explains you've got bags under your eyes. Oh, those are your tits. So that explains the beard.
There's so many versions of that joke. The guy goes to the doctor and he's got a big pimple in the middle of his forehead, a huge pimple in the middle of his forehead. And he says, "Doc, the thing's so ugly." And doctor says, "Geez, I can't believe it. You got a penis growing out of your forehead." And the guy goes, "Jesus Christ, Doc. What are we going to do?" And the doc says, "Well, I'll just have to wait till it's fully grown and then I can remove it." He says, "Fully grown? I can't go through all those years looking up at a dick." He says, "Well, it won't be that long. After a couple of years, the balls will cover your eyes."
Yeah.
It's all the same joke.
But it's beautiful. I'll tell you what, Gene Cornish, Gene, right, from the Rascals?
I love Gene. We used to call each other once in the middle. I'd call him in the middle of the night and give him a joke, and then he'd call me and tell me a joke I knew already.
Right, of course. He does the same thing to me now. I guess I'm the guinea pig now. He calls me up the other day. I see it's Gene. I said, "Hey, Gene, how you doing?" He said, "Do you know that to be kissed while you're sleeping is the most intimate and sincere display of love, unless you're in jail?"
Hangs up
the phone.
That's a great line. I met him on the Joey Reynolds show like 20 years ago.
Wow.
It's so funny because when I was a kid, my buddy went to New York Tech and they had school dance at the, I think whatever it's called now, I don't know. It used to be called the Four Seasons over in Syosset, and the band for his school dance was the Young Rascals. And I'm talking about on a platform about 6 inches tall, and they must have just started doing gigs around. I don't think I ain't gonna eat my heart out anymore. I don't think that had even come out yet. And I was like spellbound, out of my mind, watching these guys, and now they're all my friends, and I can't wrap my head around. You know, meanwhile, I'm friends with Felix and friends with Gene and friends with Eddie, but they can't be in the same room.
Oh, I know. Gene just had to give a deposition, and it's like,
so great.
It's crazy.
Hey, you know, one of those shows I did for Toby, Felix was on it, Felix and his Rascals, and I introduced them, and he said, Jackie, I almost couldn't walk out on stage. He said, I almost pissed in my pants listening to your jokes. So, anybody, this is a guy who was, I had the whole student body of Michigan State, dancing to People Gotta Be Free, and these are my boys. These are my boys. I never met them. I'm just talking about my heroes. And then you get to know these guys, and it's just, you know exactly.
I do. I know exactly. That's what this is all. That's what this whole show is about. Is that family that we all come to. And one of the reasons I was so looking forward to your call is because it's such a integral. Comedy is such an important part of all of aspects of entertainment business, not just live on stage, but film, and it's so.
And you know what,
important.
Steve? Everybody loves jokes. They did a documentary on me that's not out yet because there's no film festivals to take it to. And my buddy Ian, who made the documentary, rode with me all the way to South Pennsylvania, recorded 2 shows. And I mean, tape me eating chicken and tape me changing my clothes in the parking lot. I mean, every 5 seconds he was up my ass with the camera. And we're on our way home from southern Pennsylvania, and he puts away the camera, and my phone rings. And it's Mark from the Turtles. And he's like, Jackie, we're on the bus. We're in the middle of Kansas. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're all going out of our mind. I'm going to put you on speakerphone. You got to tell some jokes. So I told jokes to him and the cow sales and the association and all these people and blew them away. And I'm like, I can't believe the fucking documentary camera. That would have been the most interesting thing in the documentary. Man. But it was so flattering because here's all these entertainers calling up and saying, entertain us, with your stupid jokes, but I'll take that.
Hey, man, let me tell you what. It's, you go to a party and everybody gets a little toasted, right? And there's 2 guys. One guy who's pontificating about taxes and the State of the Union, and the guy who has everybody around him laughing their ass off. Which one,
right.
Where are you sitting? I'm over by that guy.
The way I always used to tell it is if you go, every party you go to, there's 2 groups of people. There's the people in the huddle telling dirty jokes, and the people that are trying to think of a joke so they can get in the huddle.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
And okay, and I was always loved weed. I mean, I thought I was funnier when I was stoned. Do you think that's a scientific fact?
No, that might be when it comes to you. I think once in 40 years I smoked a little pot before I went. I have never smoked pot before I went on stage. And Rodney, until the very end, when he's very old, he's like, "Hey, no, never get high before. After, get drunk after. Get drunk, get laid after, not before."
What about
because pot, my act is not a pothead act. It's
no, it's
laugh,
really not.
Get crazy. It's high energy. Be nutty. Not that potheads don't like it, but that I'm not gonna be like, "Hey, man."
No. I wasn't. I was talking about inspirational, not performance wise. Do you think funnier thoughts when you smoke a joint, or is there a method to it?
I don't think so. I wrote my autobiography. I never said, let me get stoned before I start writing, because it, and I'm the biggest pothead in the world. I've been growing pot for 25 years. You wouldn't believe who smoked my pot. Everybody in the fucking world.
I believe.
Tim Burton, Robert Altman, Julia Roberts and George Clooney and all these characters, because I know friends of friends, and there's nothing like homegrown pot because nobody's fucked with it.
Right.
So many people say, "Hey, yeah, this will get you high," and that somebody says, let me see how high I get Steve Longo. Let me give him some fucking PCP. You know what I mean? So
I'm going to tell you two quick weird pot stories. One,
take your time. It's your show.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's what they told me. But I'm out here until they confirm that. I'm 16. I'm making a record at CBS Studios. The Rascals, unbeknownst to me, have just broken up in the control room. This is 1970. Gene confirmed that for me years later. I go upstairs. I do my tracks. We were trading out time with a producer. We would do somebody's tracks if they would give us studio time. And somebody said to me, Edgar Winter's upstairs in Studio E. You should go up there. He's recording. So I thought, okay. And this was CBS. If you've been there, every studio is exactly the same. And the elevator lets you out into the lobby of the studio. So you're in it. So I go up. I think it was Studio E. I go up there and I'm a kid. And Edgar Winter looks at me and smiles and says, "Come on in, man." I said, "Okay, man."
You're a kid with the hair down.
I'm a kid, And anyway, long story short, she says, "You want to get high?" I said, "Sure." Are you kidding me? Look at my hair. So he goes through his pack of cigarettes and pulls out the joint that has the little mark on it.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. And I light it up and he passes it around and it goes around, and all of a sudden, now I have enough experience even at 16 to know I must leave now.
Right.
So I said, "Listen, guys, I got to get down to my session." And I'm standing in the elevator, right? And and the door closes, and it seemed like I'm in there for a half hour. Well, I was in there for a half hour. I never pushed a button. And the thing finally starts to move and scares the shit out of me. It opens up, and who's standing there but Jimi Hendrix? And not only is it Jimi Hendrix, but he thinks he knows me. And
he's dead.
And he's dead. So I'm thinking, great. I just discovered that Hendrix is not dead, and that's why he's being nice to me, because he's going to kill me. Anyway, we go into the studio. He says, "Come on in." He's talking about where we get our heroin from, and I'm like, "What?" And my band is nowhere in sight. He said, "Did you go see Rosie?" And I said, "Well, not for a while." And I'm in there, and they mic him up like this with the microphone over there, and I'm looking, and Jackie, I'm telling you, it's the hair, and it's the fur, and the feathers, and it's Hendrix. It's purple and white.
And you're on PC.
And I'm on Angel Dust, or thank you, Edgar. And so I'm sitting in the vocal booth, and they said, "All right, you want to give it a test?" And he says, "Sure." And he goes, "One child grows up to be." And it was freaking Sly Stone.
Now, see, you talk about politically incorrect. You just spent 10 minutes saying they all look alike.
No, just two of them. Just two of them. And only when you're on Angel Dust.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Entwistle was not a pothead at all. Did not like pot.
No.
But he loved the best of everything. Loved the finest cognac, the most car, this beautiful thing, this Capodamonte, blah, 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 blah. So we do a show at BB King's. And I don't know if you know Ari, the booker. He comes out and he says, "Hey, Steve, I know you like the good pot." He says, "This is the good pot." And so I said, "Oh, great, man."
After the show.
After the gig. And the minute I hit this thing, I knew, you could just tell, grown at 40,000 feet, picked by the right hand of left-handed people. It's one of those with the story. And so I said, "John, you got to try this." No. I said, "Well, what? No? Aren't you the guy that the best of everything? The best of everything? This is the best." And he goes, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." He takes a big hit, and I said, "Now hold it in like a grown-up, right?" And he holds it in big time. And so we leave. He doesn't say a word. And this is, I could go on with this forever. But we get in the cab, and we're going back to the plaza, and he says to me, "Steve, when does this stop?" So I said, oh man, I said, it won't be long. I said, I'm sorry. I said, didn't realize you're having a bad time. We get back to the plaza. This is the beautiful part because remember, he's English. We get back to the plaza, right? And instead of in his 6-room palatial suite, instead of going and sitting on the couch, he gets in that uncomfortable wooden writing chair that they give you that looks like Louis XIV. And he's sitting in the thing like he's wired on gack out of his mind. And he says, Steve, is this going to stop anytime soon? I said, are you still having a hard time, man? Listen, I said, all you need, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. I go out to the mini bar, English mini bar, and I pull out the Plaza bar. And I go in there and I said, all you got to do is eat this and you'll be fine. And he said, where did you get this? And I said, out of the mini bar. He said, you do know how much this is? I said, you want to sit there spinning for another 20 minutes? You want to eat?
And he ate it.
He ate it.
I'm sure it straightened him right out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, eventually, yeah.
Oh,
something
man.
did. I'm not sure.
That and something else.
You know,
Yeah.
I grow great pot, and the first, I think, hippie fest that Toby did was in Newark, and I played with Godfrey and a different drummer named Steve
Murphy.
Steve Murphy and a bunch of guys. And this is when I first met them. And I said, listen, I got some great homegrown pot. And they said, great. And me and Murphy went out to my car and got stoned. And then he texted me or emailed me. He said, Jackie, I got so high, I couldn't find the fucking hotel. I drove all the way home to South Jersey. I said, so in other words, I'm a good gardener, you know.
Hey, listen, and respect, brother. I'll tell you Godfrey's story. Did you know Billy St. John, rest in peace?
No, that's a name
might have
I've heard
glanced off,
banded
doesn't
around,
matter.
you know.
He was the one who brought, he was the one that brought things on the road, right? And it's Billy and I that are really running the tour.
Well, he
and
was best friends with Bobby Shadid.
yeah, he was friends with, it's, believe me, you're 2 degrees of separation. So anyway, we're on the bus and we said, everybody else is sleeping, been up all night, and we're up, we're going to watch a movie. And we said, what do you want to watch? And Billy says, let's watch Natural Born Killers, with Woody Harrelson, right? So Godfrey comes out, he says, oh, we watching a movie? I said, yeah, but we're going to tune up first. You going to join us? And he said, what? And we said, come on, you got to smoke something. And this was like, we called it stupid jerky because it looked like jerky in the bag, right? Yeah. So we get him, and he manned up, smoked the joint. I mean, and Godfrey's not a pothead.
No. Smokes
the joint, right? We watch the movie, and we open up the things, the shades, and he's sitting there like this. And I said, what happened, man? That scare you? He said, yeah, a little. He said, but you know what really scares me? And we said, what? And he said, you guys smoke this all day long, and you're running the tour.
Oh, Fader's in there.
I love it. I rode the bus with the guys with Toby from Los Angeles to Phoenix at some point, and it was it was Todd Rundgren and Jack Bruce. There was about
Alan
4 or 5,
Parsons.
about 4 or 5. Alan. And I guess Alan, what's his face, didn't come, but there was like, whatever, like 5 or 6 major rock stars on this bus, and and we stopped at like 2 in the middle of the night. We stopped like at a Walmart. And these old rock and roll stars are walking around up and down, and I'm looking in the aisles of Walmart, seeing these homeless old people, and I'm like, they're not homeless old people. That's Todd Rundgren and that's Jack Bruce. And we got in the bus, and I said, you cocksuckers. I said, do you realize if this was 40 years ago, it'd be hookers and coke, and I'd be having the time of my life, and I'm watching you assholes drink tea and play Scrabble and buy underwear at Walmart. Somebody got to put a pin in my eye.
Not on our bus.
Not
on our bus. I'll tell you what, we picked up strippers in Austin, and they were dancing on the bus for hours, and they didn't realize we went to Dallas. John had to send them back in a cab. So,
that was the year before I met Toby. I never met John Entwistle.
Man, you would have loved it.
But that was the Walk Down Abbey Road tour, right? The first one.
Yeah. That was the first one. Yeah, Toby, I had a great time. We went to Japan on that one. We did Hawaii for the day. It was crazy.
Ann
But-
Wilson was on it.
Yeah, Ann Wilson was on it, and it was a great time. I wound up being the last year that we toured together, John and I, before he passed.
Yeah, last time you saw him was
Yeah,
in Japan.
it was the last time I saw him. Was the last night of that tour. But listen, if he could have written it, that's what he would have written.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
We all
So
been
I
around
was
way
asked-
too long, and we'll be having the same phone call 20 years from now. I guarantee you.
Well, we'll have it sooner than that. Somebody asked me to ask you about Sid.
Sid?
I don't know what that means. Sid, a story about Sid.
First, I got to tell you that Tom and Jegno from Omnipop is the one who connected me and you. So I want to give him a shout out. On the
Absolutely.
outside chance that he's watching. He's a real delightful guy.
Tommy Pop.
I've known him forever. Now listen, I'm in show business. So if you say Sid, there's Sid Mandelbaum, my friend that runs the Rock and Wrap It Up charity. There's Sid Bernstein, which is just spectacular. Did you know Sid Bernstein?
Yeah, but I think it's the other Sid.
Sid from Rock and Wrap It Up. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. What did Fader ask?
Peter Cooper Schmidt said to ask you about the Zebra DVD.
The Zebra DVD, does that bring up any flashbacks?
Well, Zebra. If you talk about the band Zebra, I met them when I was working at the studio in Queens with Kevin Kelly. Zebra had a 2-week lockdown where it was just them in the studio, and they were doing an album. We became really, really tight friends, and it was the week of Easter, and I said to Randy, whatever his name is, the guitar player,
Randy
I
Jackson.
said to Randy Jackson, "What are you doing for Easter?" And he said, "I'm just in the hotel because I'm from New Orleans." I said, "Horse shit." And I dragged this long-haired, crazy rock and roll music. Well, he's not crazy. He's probably the most tame guy there ever was. But I brought him home to my family's house for Thanksgiving, which you have to know like my grandmother was just this crazy, crazy character. And whenever we had whatever you call the person that you pick on, the rube.
Right.
We had somebody new at the dinner table. Couldn't wait, right? And we're having Thanksgiving dinner, and Grandma's sitting there, and I said, "Randy, ask my grandmother about making the turkey." And people are so polite. Especially, I used to have friends from college, from Michigan State, that were Midwest boys, so polite. Mrs. Poole or Grandma, tell us about how you make the turkey. She says, "Well, we get a nice bird and we rub it down with oil, and then we chop up some onions and celery and breadcrumbs, and a cup of unpopped popcorn, and we put it all together and mix it up and stuff the turkey with that and put it in the oven."
Wow.
And and the kids like being so polite, thinking unpopped popcorn. Well, whatever she says. And then I said, "But Grandma, how do you know when the turkey's done?" And she says, "When his asshole blows off." And the poor friend that's new to the table just, I must have gotten 12 different people over the course of time. But Randy still remembers. So those guys are great guys. And 30 years later, I got an email. "Jackie, I don't know if you remember me. My name's Felix, and I was a bass player in a group called Zebra." And I wrote him back and said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I embarrassed Randy at Thanksgiving dinner. We spent 2 weeks together. We got drunk and stoned and crazy. For you, I know you better than I know a lot of my family members. Do I know you?" He says, "Well, listen, do you like country music?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Well, my girlfriend massages the Jets and the Giants, and she also massages Willie Nelson. So we're going to see Willie Nelson tonight. Do you want to go?" So I hadn't seen him in 25 or 30 years. And we met at a bar and went to see Willie at the Beacon. Not the Beacon, whatever downtown, Wilbur, whatever.
It could have been the Beacon or
no, but it was downtown. And it was
downtown.
so spectacular.
Winter Garden. Anyway, yeah.
I'll think of it. But he says after the show, we're going to go on the bus with Willie and get stoned. And it's like 12 o'clock. And my day started at 6 o'clock sharp. we went on the air, and I'm like, oh boy, talk about Sophie's Choice, right? And I got to go to the bathroom, and we're like on the second floor, and Wilbur, not the Will, whatever it was called. The bathroom was in the basement. So he had to go down 2 flights and then a whole nother flight. I went all the way down. I'm already drunk and stoned and took a piss. And I said, Jackie, if you go back up there and then go out in that bus, you're going to miss work and you're going to fuck up your life. And instead of going up and staying with Felix and getting stoned with Willie, I went home and made it to work the next day. And by the grace of God, Felix said, listen, we got to try it again. So then I went to Westbury Music Fair and we got in the bus with Willie and got stoned out of our heads. And it was, I've been friends with him for 25 years. We exchanged dirty jokes on email like once or twice a week. It's amazing. He's such a character,
We we had his bust when I was playing with Leslie West. We had Willie's bust once, and I said,
that's great.
We're not going over the border, are we? And I remember another time I was out with Leslie. We were coming in from Canada, and I'm a dog lover. I've always had dogs. I love dogs, and I see these labs, right? And they're up on these stainless steel tables and they're wagging their tails. And I said, wow, I said, check these dogs out. This is good. They're smiling. They're happy. And Leslie goes, it's not good if they're happy to see you, Steve. These dogs, it's not good.
Okay, Fader now writes, who? Okay.
God, man. All right, so now let's see.
I gotta tell you, the worst thing that ever happened to me is I used to network with everybody that came on the show. And Howard would never introduce us to anybody, but I'd find out Roger Daltrey, Clarence Clemens, Willie, all these people. I'd find out who the manager was, who the agent was, who the booker was. I'd get their address and send them my Dirty Joke CDs. And you know that every musician loves Dirty Joke CDs. And they would come back on the air the next time they were, coming through town. And they'd walk in, they'd say hello to Howard, and they'd say hello to me. Because they'd forget that they had never met me, because now they know me from my CD.
Right.
So it used to get Howard crazy. But I finally get onto Willie's bus. And so here we go. I say, Willie, I got a bunch of homegrown. He's like, oh, well, roll it up. So I'm sitting at that little Formica table with him. And my girlfriend's, my wife, as a matter of fact, I was still married. My wife was there, a couple of the New York Giants, and whoever else. And me and Willie are sitting there. And I get out the joint and he says, we need a match. And Steve, I'll never forget. I'm like, Willie, you're 1,000 years old. You've been on this bus for 50 years. How the fuck could a pothead not know where there's a match on his bus? But we start looking, and you know those buses, all the little drawers.
I know, yeah.
I pull open, I just swear on my mother, this is true. I pull open a drawer, and there's my CD, Hot Dogs and Donuts. And I'm like, I got a heart on. I couldn't believe it. I was like, look at this. Holy fucking God. And I took it out of the drawer. It was still in the plastic.
Oh!
I said, Willie, you just turned what was going to be the greatest story of my career into the worst possible story. And I thought he was going to piss himself. He laughed so hard.
That's great.
At least it made it to the bus. It's a fucking coaster.
Oh, that's funny, man. That's really.
That'll keep you humble, Steve.
And can you still get these? Is it on your site? I mean,
but everything's downloadable now. But I need to get your street address and send you a pile of stuff. I got a lot of funny stuff. If you don't like dirty jokes, I'm the wrong guy. If you like dirty jokes,
I know who you are.
No, but you know what I'm saying to the average person. Like, it's like, if you like opera, don't go to me. If you like dirty jokes, come to me. But I mean, I got the market cornered. It's a little bit scary. It's a little scary.
Well,
And do you write? Yeah, I love dirty jokes. Yeah. Do you write your own material?
No, I occasionally write a joke here and there, and it's funny when they come back around and somebody goes to tell me one, and I'm like, that's one of the ones I put in the pile. But I've been telling old jokes. And they're not old jokes, because there's no such thing as an old joke, because it's all completely subjective. A joke, if you've heard the joke already, to you it's an old joke. If you haven't heard the joke yet, it's a new joke. And that applies to every joke, to every person. You know, if somebody heard a joke a week ago that I've been telling since 1945 and they go, oh, that's an old joke, that means they heard it a week ago. You know,
Right.
all the jokes have been around and around and around and around. And it's just fun. It's just silly, you know.
It is fun. And I'll tell you, I got into when I came down to Florida a year or so after I came down here, I got sucked into the evil game of golf. And the golf jokes are freaking phenomenal. Have you heard the one about the American businessman that goes to Japan?
Absolutely. You know what? There was a girl who was at one of the holes to make sure you didn't cheat, saying you got a hole in one to win a car. And I said, Christy, they got 4 girls here. You don't need to be here. And she was from Dallas. And she got in the cart and we started driving around. And I had already told the joke to the guys in the cart. So every time somebody hit a bad shot, I'd go, oh, Nashigayena, Nashigayena, however you tell it. And after a while, she finally said, Jack, what is this Nashigayena you keep saying? And I said, well, you know, you weren't on the cart yet, but it's a joke. And I told her the joke and she laughed and she said, you know, that's funny. She says, I didn't know what you're saying. I thought maybe Nashigayena, I thought maybe that was one of those Yiddish expressions.
See, I use Kawasaki, so there's no messing it.
That is a great joke. Here's a great one for the next time you play golf if you haven't heard it. The guy walks into the pro shop and his face is all cut up and bloody. The pro says, what happened to you? And he says, I just blew an eagle.
See now, do you know the one about the penguin that his car blows up in the little town?
Of course.
Oh.
You know, I tell everybody I'm a social leper, you know, because to be polite, you're supposed to pretend you haven't heard a joke, especially if a woman starts a joke.
Oh, yeah.
The definition of a gentleman is someone who hasn't heard the story. And I'm like, I can't do that because I can't have some chick come up and say, why'd the chicken cross the road? And say, I don't know. And have her say to get the other side and spend the rest of her fucking life telling everybody, I stumped that guy Jackie the joke, man. He didn't know my joke. So, you know, people go to, you know, tell me a joke and, you know, I do horrible stuff too, you know, like I'm not going to finish this story, but
It's okay. It's okay.
no,
So,
like,
all right, let me ask you this one.
Girls come up and say, oh, you're so dirty. Tell me a dirty joke. Tell me a dirty joke. And I say, all right, how do you get a gay guy to have sex with a girl? You put shit in her vagina.
See now, Leslie is.
And then the girl says, okay, you win. I'll leave you alone. And then, you know.
Leslie used to use the one on stage. My girlfriend told me to kiss her where it stinks, so I took her to New Jersey.
Yeah, I loved him. What a character.
Me too. And he called me just a few weeks before he passed. He said, Steve, I'm living in Florida now. I said, good. How you doing? How do you think I'm doing? I got one leg. That's good to hear from you, Les. I loved him too, man. I loved him too. Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, that's a high note to go out on, you know.
That is a high note to go out on. Because what I was about to do was tell you my wife's least favorite golf joke. I'm going to save it for another time because I know you would get it and appreciate it.
No, if it's her favorite joke, I'm going to laugh like
No, it's her least favorite. She doesn't even think it's funny.
Nobody thinks it's funny.
Right,
Nobody laughs.
May I try?
Nobody laughs.
And if you've heard it, just flag me off, okay? Guy shows up to his weekly foursome with one ball. You with me so far? Okay. Rest of the foursome says, what's up with the one ball? What do you... He said, this ball is amazing. He said, if you hit it in the water, it floats to the surface and it finds the nearest shore. And if you hit it in the woods, it emits a sound that can be heard up to 3,000 yards away. And it'll send up a light. And it's just an amazing piece of equipment. And they said, where'd you get it? And he said, I found it.
What?
I have always thought that is so funny, and there are so many people. There's so many people that don't think that's funny, and that's
They don't. They don't
because
laugh.
it's on beyond funny. You know, there's some jokes that I use as like barometer jokes, and I'm like, if people don't laugh at them, you know, there's a joke that I used to tell, and this girlfriend of mine used to laugh so hard, and I tell people that if I actually say it in my act after I'm done, if you don't think that's funny, I don't care about you. But
I heard you say it a couple of times in the routine.
Yeah.
That joke alone was worth the price of admission. No, it's
right. So,
Yeah.
so a guy goes in to a bar, and there's a pretty blonde behind the counter, and there's a sign behind her that says cheese sandwich $5, chicken sandwich $7, hand job $50. And he says to the blonde, he says, "Are you the one that gives the hand jobs?" She says, "Yep." He says, "Wash your hands and get me a cheese sandwich."
That's great.
There's people that don't think that's funny, and I'm like, if you don't think that's funny, you don't belong in my life.
All right,
You know?
stop. Please stop me if you know this one, because this is one of my maybe I get this one by. Guy shows up to the golf course, and he's got no one to go out with, and they pair him up with Vito from New York, who's there on a business trip. No, nothing, not ringing a bell.
But it could be five. You know, Vito could be a priest.
Okay.
Vito
So-
could be a priest.
Right. So no. So Vito has his clubs in the back, and the guy is a member at this club, and he lives on the grounds. And he says, "So Vito, what do you do?" And Vito says, "I'm down here on business." He said, Yes. What's your business?" He said, "I'm a hitman." Yeah. No.
I think I could save you $1,000.
Okay, what about the talking dog?
That's
You're
awesome.
talking to me, Longo. You're talking to me. You didn't pick me up on the side of the road. Hit that.
Oh no! Believe
I know these fucking that's a
this is.
Don't get me wrong. That is a great joke.
It is a great
It
joke.
is a great joke.
But
I'll tell you, this is kind of a long story, but we drove out to Albuquerque. Me and my partner, we had a 1955 bright yellow Cadillac hearse. That's what we traveled in. We're in the mountains of Albuquerque playing at the Golden Inn in Golden, New Mexico. And there's a rich guy that used to fly in and land behind the inn with his beautiful girlfriend and come in and get drunk. I don't know what the connection was to the place. And the guy was a fun guy, a rich guy, got around, and he got word that there was a guy staying at the Golden Inn that knew a lot of jokes. So like a lot of people, a joke tells like a gunslinger. You know, I know just like the way you are now, you're like, what do I got that he hasn't heard?
yeah, what do I got there? Yeah.
That's what people are like. And this guy's like, I got one. So he comes up to me, and this guy says, all right, I got one. And he's like the hero, the rich guy. He got the plane and the girl. He opened his mouth, and I told him the punchline. And the guy's jaw, he just, it didn't compute. But then you back time it because he said to me, nobody has ever heard that joke. He says, I sold that joke to Playboy 20 years ago or whatever, blah, 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 and yuck. And I thought about it, and I remembered I had been told that joke by a waiter at Pipe and Rock Club in Locust Valley when I was a busboy, who must have been in college when that issue of Playboy came out. You know, everybody's got a few jokes that they like to tell. And that was one of the jokes in this guy's wheelhouse. And he told it to me, and I loved it. And I had always repeated it. And so when the guy started it, I recognized it and finished it. He said nobody has ever in his life had ever known it. I'll make it as quick as I can. But a guy's got a down and out bar on the boardwalk in Coney Island. He's about to shut down forever. And a clam walks in. And the clam says, can I have a drink? And that guy says, what the hell? You know, sit down, and gives him a glass of scotch. And the clam drinks a couple of hits of scotch. And he starts telling the guy his life story. And the clam says, you mind if I play the piano? And the bar owner says, go ahead. So the clam starts playing the piano. People walk along the boardwalk. They see the clam playing the piano. Next thing you know, the place is packed. And Joe's like, do you want me? He said, my name's Joe. I'm Joe the Clam. You want me to come back tomorrow night? The guy's, I want you to come back every night. So Joe the Clam is there on the piano every night. The place is packed. They're making billions of dollars. They're getting women they're living the life. Unbelievable. So one night it's late afternoon, and Joe the Clam walks in, and his shell is all broken and smashed. And the guy's like, "What the hell happened to you?" He said, "Listen, I was fucking this lobster under the pier, and her dolphin boyfriend showed up, and I didn't see him coming, and he gave me pretty much of a shellacking." And the guy said, "Look, Joe, I'm going to put you up in my bed and tuck you in. But that blonde I've been hitting on for a couple of weeks, I think I got a shot with her tonight. So if we get in bed together, shut up." And Joe's like, don't worry. So the guy, sure enough, comes home with the girl and takes her up to bed. And the next morning they wake up, and he looks over at her and he says, "How was that?" And she says, "Oh, it was so great." He says, "Yeah, some good stuff, huh?" She goes, "You're terrific." And he says, "Did you like when I went down on you?" She says, What are you talking about?" He says, "Did you enjoy it when I went down on you?" And she goes, "You didn't go down on me." He goes, "Oh, fuck, I ate my best friend."
Oh, now
So
that's
the guy
even
with
not.
the plane says this guy's got a bar on the boardwalk in Coney Island. And I said, "Yeah, I ate my best friend." And the guy was like, "Oh, oh, oh."
That's man. Well, listen, I'll tell you what. That's the high note to leave it on. That man, you are. I enjoyed this more than I can tell you, bro. Just
All right, I gotta say two things. First of all, I do cameo.com/Jackie Martling. If you like jokes, you want me to insult Steve, if you want me to insult his wife, if you want to say happy divorce to somebody, or people say, my mother's turning 73, she loves shit jokes, she loves Jewish jokes, whatever you want to say to her, blah, blah, blah. It's cameo.com/Jackie Martling. It's a lot of fun. That's the only thing I plug on these things.
no, you
I
should.
love
No,
it.
and I'll put it on the site, cameo.com/Jackie Martling.
And I'll do the same time. Thanks to Tom and Jagno for putting us together. And
Man, yes.
we
big
have
thank you, Tom.
have not even made a dent in the stories we can tell. So where are you in Florida?
I'm on the West Coast in Fort Myers.
I got a call 2 weeks ago to work in Fort Myers at the Comedy Laugh-In Cafe.
Yep.
Is that near you guys?
5 minutes.
Well, the guy
5
offered me
minutes.
like $12, and I said, "Well, if you make it 14, I might come." So it's just, you never know. But listen, make sure you have your guy email me.
No, I'm gonna do the whole thing. We'll do. Believe me, I wanna. This is the point. The best part of doing this show is reconnecting with old talented friends from the business, and I mean long time, not decrepit. And no, man, I'm gonna reach out to you. There's some stuff for us all to do.
There's so many names and so much stuff that we got to bring up. That'll be so much. What's funny is Billy Joel lives 2 miles and 12 tax brackets away from me.
And I've had almost his whole band on the freaking show. But you know what we do on Fridays? Fridays is Free for All Friday. It's the same key to get in. You can come in and say hello, tell a joke, stay the whole hour. It's you never know. Tom was in there last Friday, so you're welcome, man.
Tom's in there tonight.
Yeah,
too.
Tom's watching tonight, so he heard your shout out.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's why, not the only reason, but that's why Laurie is here, because I wanted to just be you and me backstage, smoking a joint, laughing our asses off, and I wanted to feel like that. And man, it feels like that, Jackie.
Well, next time I'm literally going to sit here and smoke a joint. We'll see if I get funnier.
You know what? That would come under a science experiment, and I would be
All right,
willing.
I'm gonna leave you with a very disgusting joke.
All right.
Okay. Grandpa's with his grandson, and they're sightseeing in Pennsylvania. And Grandpa says, "Sonny boy, you see that field over there? That's where they fought the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863. And Sonny boy, there's people that think the Battle of Gettysburg was the turning point of the Civil War." The kid says, "Duh, Grandpa. Tell me something I don't know." He says, I could fit my whole fist in your grandmother's asshole.
That's something to know.
From the land end of You Can't Make It Up, I was in the middle of that joke. My girlfriend and Tom had to move their office into my little office here. And in the middle of that joke, that was Tom and Jegno's voice on his answering machine. If you heard a noise in the background, that was him saying, "Welcome to Omnipop. We're over here and we're about to shoot ourselves." All right, now let's do this again. Let's do it again.
We
Say
will.
hello to everybody. Whoever you talk to, tell them I said
I'll
hello.
tell them hello. I'm going to send you my numbers. I'll get your numbers. I'll say we'll do this. It'll be a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, man, it was a pleasure, and thanks for being had.
Next time I get to see your wife.
I'll have to send you a picture.
All right.
Because,
I haven't had a haircut in a year.
Shut up.
no, she didn't say she hasn't shaved in a year. She said she hasn't had a haircut in a year. I mean, we're civilized here.
We are
I
civilized.
thought you said the west coast of Florida.
Well, yeah, we snuck over. God bless you, bro.
man,
you're
so funny.
you are just, man, you lit my day up, man.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
And a little piece on the side, right?
Always.
Okay, brother. Talk to you soon. Thank you,
Bye,
man.
Jackie.
See you, Jackie.
Bye-bye. It was a pleasure.
See.
Oh, man.
Shit.
He's so funny.
It makes me want to go back and watch the intro where he was telling this.
The jokes.
I mean, guys, you know I love a good joke, right? And I love to tell a good joke, but
He knows them all.
I could not get
And then
anything
some.
past him.
He
I'm
knows-
not even going to bother with the
Well, he wants to
albatross
come back
and the
on.
lady's kid.
We have to have him back
We
on.
have to have him back on. No, he's
Sue
you
said
know.
best, funniest ever.
Yeah, well, okay. So we'll Angus, if you're watching, part 2.
Yeah,
we'll set
let's
it
book
up.
Jackie.
I mean, man, wow, that was what can I say?
Man,
Throwback Thursday.
I laughed the whole time.
Me too.
Okay, so Jackie. Encore, Jackie.
Encore, absolutely.
Okay, tomorrow night. Free for all Friday.
So you know, if I don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture.
Good night, everybody.
Take care, kids.